Joining the Trailblazers, changing banking. Andreas, nice to meet you. Tell us a little bit about that statement and what you think that means.
That's a good question, and very much resonates to Mambu as our organization, because with Mambu, myself, and with the whole company, we've been in a mission of revolutionizing the banking and financial sector's experience by making it easier, quicker, and more simple for our customers, actually banks, so they can offer the amazing products for our own customers. And what we do, we advertise something we call composable banking, which gives a lot of flexibility and power to our consumers to use our services so they can connect multiple building blocks and build their own offerings. I really like to present this challenge, when someone argues that, there are lots of competitors on the market, providing modular systems which are flexible. And, to dispel this myth, I am using a metaphor of jigsaw puzzle versus Lego brick, right? Which helps me to explain, like, modular system for me combine individual pieces into one predefined picture, just like jigsaw puzzle, right? It's hard or almost impossible to swap out or swap in the pieces for the better ones. Generally, you are locked in with one vendor, with one single picture, right? And with composable banking, it's quite vice versa, right? It's like a Lego brick. You have multiple building blocks, whether it's Mambu building block or it's a third-party building block. You can connect it in any manner you want and choose and provide this unique competitive service for your own customer, right? And that's what's the flexibility. That's what Mambu is all about. It's all about composable banking.
Help me understand the user or customer journey. You've got big names in there. You've got N26, Tide. The list is endless, and there's 70 million end users. Help us understand a little bit about that customer journey then, and also, if you like, Mambu's elevator pitch. You've touched on points around composable banking and the difference between the Lego and the jigsaw analogy, but help us understand it just in simplest terms, what customers at N26 will be using Mambu for or doing.
Yeah, so actually we are providing core banking services, like accounting, lending, and others, right? Given we are composable banking, every customer picks their own, if you like, composition of Lego bricks, right? That's what helps them to differentiate one from each other, right? And also what we do, and we are, I would say, pioneers in the market, we are providing these services as a SaaS service, right? This is what was unique in the market back in the days when we started the business. And this is what actually helps them to be very quick and agile in the market. The traditional core banking replacement introduction project took years back in the days. Now it took 3-4 months to kick it off with our SaaS service. And this is what our customers appreciate very much.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've seen another competitor in the market, but I've seen API first businesses or banking, cloud native payments platforms. It'd be really good to understand a little bit about the makeup of the organization. As I know, we've spoken offline, you're heavily orientated towards clouds. We'll touch on that, but help us understand a little bit more about the AWS setting or your cloud native platform as it is.
Yeah, so Mambu as an organization, started to grow together with AWS, and we grew for something like 10 years very successfully, utilizing AWS native services and building our banking APIs on top, right? And due to this success, I think this success would brought us to this point in time where we are right now. And a few years ago, we started to consider and, together with our customers, also grow our ambitions. Because what we understand that our customers' needs are expanding in terms of regional availability. As you may understand, financial sectors is very heavily regulated, and our customers wondering to kick off business in some regulated areas where data residency and other compliance things are present. And this kind of customer needs brought us to start adopting our services to other cloud providers. And we are, customer need driven, and we started this adoption and started this expansion just because of this reason.
Well, what AWS services or components do you think are critical for Mambu, and why do you think they are?
Yeah, so, first and foremost, I would say AWS as a provider was very much focused on security, reliability, and quality of its services. And that what helps us to build up on top, right? And, those technologies like, back in the days, we started with something like AWS Beanstalk environment. Now we are heavily moving and modernizing our services on top of Kubernetes, right? And, playing together with this kind of big giants, which are dictating the technology in their business, helps us to dictate the technology in our business.
I think one of the interesting things at the moment is especially what you're doing around AWS, but the term commonly used in the industry is multi-cloud. People call it hybrid cloud, but I think the interoperability of clouds is something that I'd love to continue to explore with you. How challenging has that been for you as a team or Mambu's engineers to start to introduce that into your stack for customers?
Yeah, good question. Actually, this expansion is what we call opportunity for the business and, enablement for our customers. At the same time, it's an interesting technological challenge for our engineers to resolve, right? Because, each of the biggest cloud providers has slightly different approaches, even, how they approach the same technology, how they are structured, how they are thinking about the networking concerns, security concerns, and all of that kind of stuff. So that's particularly a challenging exercise, which our engineering team are working on the daily basis. And, it's not only about engineering itself. Given the fact we're providing a SaaS service, it's also about how we're operating it, how we're spreading our resources all across the globe to be ready to respond in case of any incidents occurs, and all of that mechanism, which is, particularly interesting for us in Mambu.
What have you learned? Or what's been the biggest failure or pain point that you've learned something from? Can be either or both.
Yeah. So first of all, enabling a smooth development experience, right? Because at the end of the day, when our end customers approaching our API, so it's exactly the same, regardless of cloud providers we are hosting in, right? But all of the challenges, occurs. How do you get there, right? And what we've been trying to do all the time, and we continue to do that, is how to make this abstraction so our developers, once they write the code, they test it once, and we can deploy in multiple locations, multiple cloud providers. And the ambitions which I have, that any developer in our organization doesn't even thinks about where the code will be hosted. They just think about functional capabilities, and the rest happens under the hood, regardless the end cloud provider and how it will be hosted.
This might sound like a really dim question, but touching on your point of enablement, going multi-cloud, is it just purely a case of enabling some of the customers who might be using that respective cloud provider? Let's just say Google Cloud, for example. Or are you as Mambu leveraging different services and components within those clouds for specific reasons because you're talking about deploying in different locations, or deploying code in multiple locations, if you like? Is it the enablement part where you've gone multi-cloud, or is it specific services that you're leveraging in those respective cloud providers? Or have I completely missed the point?
Yeah, so that's a good question, right? So let me explain, right? So the key drivers is actually not a services itself of the specific cloud provider, even though some of the services are really different, right? Even the networking, on Microsoft Azure, it's completely different on what you have on Google Cloud or AWS, right? However, our aim is to simplify the life for our developers, and we are trying to abstract this complexity from them so they can focus on the functional specification. And there is like dedicated team which takes out this infrastructure complexity from them, right? But at the moment, we are not leveraging any specific service in any cloud provider. Even though, let's say, the Kubernetes, right?
Yeah.
Microsoft and Amazon, like completely different versions, right? There are challenges with maintaining that, right? But we try to abstract that as much as possible and take this headache from our developers.
Okay. How are you achieving that single deployment pattern then, as opposed to each individual cloud service? How are you achieving that single deployment pattern?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think the key technology for us is Kubernetes, right?
Okay.
And we are packaging our source code, regardless whether it's persistent services or not, and deploying them to Kubernetes environments, right? And this is what this serves for us for as a backbone as a backbone for all the compute services, right? And all the networking, it's also abstracted, right? Which means that we go from the traditional IP-based networking or old school networking, right, where actually everything is abstracted, all the accesses and security is, encrypted with the certificates, vaults, and all of that stuff, right, which really removes the understanding, and all the traditional networking happens under the hood.
Okay. But because it's automated for you nowadays, this is an off-the-cuff question. How much do you need to know about traditional networking and what's actually under the hood, or what's happening underneath the automation? How much do you need to know nowadays about what's happening when using Kubernetes or something quite similar?
Yeah. So if you specifically, it depends, very much in which engineering team you are working. If you are working, and we are product-oriented organization, and our teams are actually structured all around the products and capabilities we deliver to our customers, right? Let's say you are developing a lending product or deposit product or something like that. So if you're working in this kind of engineering team, so you really even don't bother, how the networking happens under the hood, right?
Fine.
But if you are part of the infrastructure engineering team, which is responsible for networking, right? So it's your bread and butter. So you know what's the differences, and how to wire all of that thing to make sure that the rest part of the organization doesn't bother us about that, right?
Yeah, makes sense. Talk to us a little bit about some of the other challenges that you're likely to see in Mambu. That can be with interoperability with clouds or slightly outside of that, because I think I'm keen to explore a little bit more about reliability engineering There's going to be some challenges on availability and scale. Help us understand the whole picture of what the challenges look like. And it'd be good to get some of those broken down and what happens day to day at Mambu, or problems solved day to day at Mambu.
Yeah, what you mentioned, it's the problems everybody has in the world, right? When you think about scalability, reliability, etc. So each organization who grows, they are facing these challenges sooner or later. Depends, how fast they grow. And we as an organization, we're doubling every 12 months, right? Which means, at least in my experience, that quite a fast-paced growing company, right? And those scalability and reliability issues are really a concern. And what's not a concern for us today, it will be a concern after 12 months for sure, right?
Yeah.
So, and maybe, answering this question, I want to focus more on the people part, not on the technology, right? Because technology, we are continuously improving, continuously changing, but it's the people and how we are organized, right? So, we want to keep the best possible engineering within our platform and SRE teams to tackle those problems, right? And create the environment so they can do that, right? So maybe one nice things which we do is that we don't work overnight shifts like some of the organization does. Instead, we spread our engineering organization and SRE teams all across the globe. So we have locations in Sydney, Singapore, 3 locations in Europe, Romania, Lithuania, Amsterdam, and Miami, right? And this is how the SRE organization is spread. So they can really work during normal working hours, have a decent rest, come over, react to the incidents properly, improve the reliability things, improve the observability part, and or any other concerns, while they are decently rest, can focus and be creative in tackling on the problems. So I would say the people and this environment, decent environment for them to tackle those problems, that's the key for the success.
See, that's really interesting. A lot of the conversations I'm having nowadays are about the people scale in organizations. From a semi-non-technical background, I always understood the challenges would come where I've spoken to businesses before where they want to think about 20x scale as an example, and solving those problems in between, let's just say, trying to scale a system 20x. I always thought it would be the knowledge part in the people that is the limitation to be able to solve those problems. But speaking to quite a lot of technical leaders, it's the people part of the organization that you really have to prioritize to be able to go and solve the technical issues. There doesn't seem to be that much of a focus on, but the scale is quite heavily outweighed towards the people part.
Absolutely. Fully agree with you. It's really the people who are doing the great magic, right? And great people having great colleagues around can solve you any problem in the world, right?
True. What does doubling the organization in size really mean for some of the technical challenges then? The people part we've covered, that's key for Mambu, but some of the technical challenges, talk to us about those and what happens every 12 months or what you're trying to forecast in terms of system growth or potential risks or failovers, whatever.
Yeah, in terms of scale and the technology, we're really growing into limitations what some of cloud providers can provide, right? And
really?
That's the challenges for the upcoming years. At the same time, it's really a challenge to how we're looking into onboarding the new people. And some of the good feedbacks which I have collected from our new joiners, it's our onboarding procedure. even though we are trying to hire really best engineers on the markets we are in, because the best talents like to work with the best ones. That's the good recipe, right? All of them, in their feedbacks, all of them reflect very much on our onboarding procedure, which is really much focused into bringing up them into the complex world we are operating right now.
Yeah. What does your onboarding process look like? Again, I've seen that time and time again. I'm intrigued to know what that looks like.
Yeah. So our onboarding process might take up to 3 months. Depends on the engineering position you are in, right? And it's not only onboarding to a technical part, but it's also understanding more of our culture and approaches we are using, right? It's very much connected with some practical exercises, right? Understanding different cases, especially if you are in the SRE role. So you really need to get your hands dirty before you can start leveraging the customer production environments, right? Because in our business we really need to keep our quality bar really high.
Yeah, good. I bet that's a fascinating experience for engineers coming in and learning 3 different cloud providers, operating at some of the scale that you are operating at. I can imagine that is quite interesting for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are still growing, we are still doubling, and we are always hiring and looking for a great talent. So right now we are very much expanding our hubs in Lithuania and Romania, and beyond the EMEA market globally. And we are looking for the experienced engineers in web-based application development, public clouds, managing applications on Kubernetes, automating Python, Go, and other languages, right? And what's the most important that, when we are looking for those engineers, right, it's not only the technological skills which are important, we're also looking beyond that. We're looking for the people who are really comfortable to work at pace in, complex environment, which is constantly changing, and you need to adopt and solve various difficult challenges, and you feel comfortable while that working with your colleagues. And
there's going to be a link to Careers site as always below in the description, ladies and gents, for all of you listening. Help us understand where Mambu will be in 12, 24 months. If you've got a little bit of info on that product roadmap, today we can see obviously a massively successful business. Big names in banking are using you guys and girls. N26, Tide, like I mentioned at the start of the pod, and way more. Cutting edge technology, 70 million end users. Where will you be in 12, 24 months, in your view?
Yeah. So I'm not sure, how much we should expand, on the specific roadmap, because, we are currently, as every year we are currently in a cycle of rebuilding it and looking how we can improve our services for our customers even more. And the idea is that somewhere in fall this year, we will announce some nice, great changes, how our approach to banking will be brought to a next level. And these are some interesting projects which will emerge, right? But, I can't tell about them right now. That's something kept as our secret development
under your hat
in the product organization, but that's what was definitely announced, and you will see some messages coming on the market this fall very soon.
Love it. So there's a couple of secrets in there, but I think there's a track record of growth. You're obviously a massively successful cloud native payments business. So, ladies and gents, you've heard it from Andreas. If you are interested in anything engineering related, engineering management related, and you're interested in some of the topics that we've discussed around multi-cloud, web apps, observability, other parts, which are in the careers part, then check out Mambu and see where they're hiring. US, EMEA, Lithuania, Romania, other parts of the world. Andreas, thanks a lot for coming to talk to us. I do massively appreciate it. And for everyone listening, go and share this with friends, family, colleagues. Show them what Mambu are doing. Like, share, subscribe, and show us all some love. And big round of applause for Andreas as well.
Yeah. Thank you a lot. It was a pleasure.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure. I'll speak to you soon. Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Engineers is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found Engineers.io. It's no underscore. We've also got a website, which is engineers.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.